Hola, mi gente. Good afternoon. Hello, my SHPE family. We are excited to be here with you live at the SHPE 2018 National Convention. My name is Gloria Barrientos. I am part of the Early Professional Hiring Talent Acquisition team. We are so excited to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you all for joining both our live audience and our virtual audience. For those of you out there, we miss you. We wish you were here. Please pay attention to the chat box as you can still get connected with the IBM team. Join our talent network, ask questions. We have a great panel here today to answer all of the questions that you might have, so we look forward to connecting with you this afternoon. Stay tuned for more. Good afternoon, SHPE. Buenas tardes. You guys fired up to be here today at the SHPE National Convention? Woo-woo! Finally, finally. It seems, I know I can relate. I have the pleasure of hanging out with you guys throughout the year, and that's all you hear about, so we are happy the time has finally come. I would like to start by introducing myself. My name is Gloria Barrientos. I am part of the Talent Acquisition Early Professional Hiring team. And today I have a wonderful team of panelists who are just as excited to be here with you. We hope you take this opportunity to ask as many questions as you like. The representatives here come with a wealth of knowledge. Years here at IBM, they have been a part of amazing things here, and definitely seize the moment and do not be shy. Take advantage of this moment and ask as many questions as you like. So the format of the event will be, we will kick things off with our introductions. We'll have a small round of questions for the panelists, and then I would like to turn it over to you guys to take advantage and ask those questions that you might have. We also have a virtual audience, so to you out there, we miss you. We wish you were here, but do take advantage of the chat box. We want to be sure that your questions get answered as well. So a shout out for our virtual audience, guys, that couldn't be here today.
Yeah, all right.
Awesome. See, told you we miss you. So we will go ahead and kick things off. Thanks again for being here. So Romelia, would you please help us get started?
Sure, thank you, Gloria. So hello, SHPE. My name is Romelia Flores. I am a distinguished engineer and a master inventor, and those are highfalutin words for I'm one of IBM's top technical engineers, and I love to invent. I have about 47 US patents and about another 30 pending. And I get to do a lot of really cool, innovative things with my clients. They put me in with other clients and they say, come up with ideas for them and use cognitive, cloud, analytics technologies to help your clients kind of progress their business. And that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. To tell you a little bit about myself, I grew up in South Texas. I'm from Eagle Pass, Texas, a tiny, tiny little town there. And I left Eagle Pass to go to the University of Texas in Austin. And at UT, Longhorns, yay. And at UT, I studied computer science. That's the first time I'd ever seen a computer back then. So I'm a long-term IBMer. I've been with IBM about 36 years. And so in my career at IBM, I kind of had a lot of different jobs. I think that's one of the beauties of working at a company like IBM is you start, you pick up a job, you do that for a while, and then you look for other opportunities and you migrate your whole career. So I switched paths from being a software engineer to being technical support, to being focused on open systems, to being a consultant, and today I'm an innovator at IBM and just get to innovate with my clients. That's what I do.
It's amazing. Luis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luis Pizania, and I've been at IBM 13 years now. I started as a intern with IBM. Now I hold position as a manager at IBM, and my team focuses on disaster recovery solutions and high availability. If you don't know what that is, if you can picture, I don't know, let's say you had your website in Miami and something happens there, you would want that website to be up, right? So our solutions would allow you to bring up that same website somewhere else, say in Chicago or New York City or wherever. So my team is working kind of like on the next generation of those technologies. And yeah, I mean, I work with a group of just very, very talented and bright individuals. I graduated from the University of Texas at El Paso. I grew up in El Paso, Texas. I'm bilingual, like many of you. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. So, graduated as an electrical engineer.
Hi everyone, my name is Karen Maria Lasiles. I was born and raised in Bolivia, a country in South America. I moved to the US when I was 14. I graduated as an electrical engineer from George Mason University in the East Coast. My dream was to work at IBM. So I came to a SHPE conference. I've been part of SHPE for 16 years. I went to a SHPE conference and IBM got an award for the best corporate chapter of the year, or corporation of the year. And I remember them showing what they do, and I said, I will work there one day. Fast forward, I really wanted to work at IBM, so I've been there for 11 years. They offered me a job in Austin, Texas, so I moved to Austin, Texas. I am a delivery manager, which essentially means is I manage a team of about 17 software developers, and we're working on the next generation cloud. You will start seeing IBM's cloud be competitive next to Microsoft and Amazon, and that will be my team. So I'm very proud of my team and what we're doing. And let's see, like I said, I've been with IBM for 11 years. I also lead the Hispanic Business Research Group there. And what else did you guys mention? I do have some patents, not as much as Romelia, but maybe just like 6. And I've been part of SHPE. I'm also the NAC chair, if you guys know what the NAC is, this year. And I've been involved in various levels throughout SHPE as a board member and all. So happy to be here.
Hey.
So, hello everyone, I'm Manuel Silveira. Like Luis, I also went to UTEP, except a little bit before you. I graduated in 2000 with a master's in computer engineering. I have a bachelor's in electrical. And it's funny because timing's really interesting, right? I ran the Linux lab at UTEP with Rafa, and I ran the Linux lab, and the reason I chose IBM, I had a couple options, thankfully, but the reason I chose IBM was that was the year in 99, 2000 when IBM committed $1 billion to Linux. And I thought, that's where I want to go. And so I came to IBM, and I've been really, really fortunate in that, like Romelia said, I've done a bunch of things, but after a year, I ended up in Linux. And so I did Linux for 10 years. And then after that, the team went away because the Linux won, right? Linux won in the data center. There's no reason to have a Linux team if Linux won. And then I went to a cloud team. But if you know anything about cloud, it's still Linux. And then from there, we sort of turned into the open source team. And so my whole career has been Linux, cloud, and open source. And with the open source work, it really also, we started working going to conferences, talking to people, and then in the last 2 years, we took over developer advocacy for the company. And so I am a senior technical staff member, which basically means I want to be a distinguished engineer when I grow up. And what that means also is that I have a great opportunity to do, I lead the architecture technology for developer advocacy. So all I do is get to play. I don't play as much, day to day with installing stuff and doing that, but I get to draw boxes and architecture, Linux, Kubernetes, Docker, all of that. So my days are just playing. And I don't know, it's the funnest job. Actually, it's not even a job. All I get to do is play. They pay me to play.
I love
Nice.
it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. What a coincidence. I'm an IBMer, too. I've been with IBM for 5 years. I've been with SHPE for about 8 years. Currently serve as the Vice President of the South Florida professional chapter for SHPE. I graduated as a computer engineer from the University of South Florida. Go Bulls! Yeah, all right. And I started with IBM as an intern. I did actually hardware development, developing microchips, really small microchips the size of my pinky nail. Did that for 2 summers in Rochester, Minnesota, and in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then when I came into full time, I wanted to try something a little different, and I went into software. There was a big change around what IBM was doing. Software was the place to be, still is, and I tried something different. So I was able to move to Austin, Texas, where I did software development for the IoT platform. So the Internet of Things, big area there, which I did for a few years. And IBM being so flexible, I wanted to kind of get a different role where I could be a little more remote as well, be closer to home in Florida. So I switched over into the technical sales role, which is like 50% developing demos and prototypes for customers, the other 50% working with clients, going to where they're located. And I cover different industries around aerospace, automotive, oil and gas. So I work with a lot of the big companies around what they're doing, and I help build solutions for them around AI, data science, blockchain, and cloud, not cryptocurrency. And I'm in Miami, Florida.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, and guys, you will hear me say this a few times throughout our discussion here today. As I mentioned, we have an all-star team here with us today, and while I realize some of you have places to go shortly after, do keep in mind that we will be at the expo all day Friday and Saturday, and they will also be at our networking reception tomorrow night. So stay tuned and be sure that if you are not able to connect with them, you take advantage and meet us tomorrow night or at the expo booth, 1423. All right, so I will go ahead and kick off my first question here, and of course I will, this is for Romelia. So someone who holds 47 patents and 30 are in the works, are in the process of getting approved here. So what kinds of technologies have you been focused on over the past 3 years?
Wow. So I have a very unique job at IBM. I get to kind of shape what I do with my clients. My clients come to me because they want me to know the leading edge of what IBM does. So when I think about that, I divide IBM into, software, hardware, and services, right? From a software perspective, we do a lot in cloud, we do a lot of cognitive, we do Internet of Things, we do blockchain, we do all kinds of amazing technologies. And part of what I do is try and figure out, okay, how would I use that technology in my day-to-day life and what I would be doing in all the different industries that my clients work in to try and kind of help them position technology in those realms. We also have a lot of amazing hardware technologies. When you think about, who has the fastest supercomputer in the world, that is IBM, right? Our Summit computer is the fastest in the world right now. And we challenge, other countries to make faster, better, quicker computers so that we can all compete and really continue to push the envelope of technology. And certainly IBM has a long history of mainframe technologies. I am a 3270 developer. Some of the original work that I did in Austin was to develop, 3270 data streams that are utilized in connecting into the mainframe environments. And I'd say, our mainframe, some people say, well, it's not in vogue anymore, it's not the right kind of technology to use moving forward. But I beg to differ with them because a lot of the leading edge systems, a lot of airline reservation systems, financial transactional systems, all operate on the mainframe. And the mainframe is rock solid in terms of performance, in terms of scalability and reliability. And those are some of the things, when I differentiate IBM from other companies, I would say, IBM is enterprise driven, meaning we focus on helping our clients that have a need to provide business as an enterprise, and we are enterprise grade technology, which is very different than being, consumer oriented. We are more at an enterprise level. So a lot of people will say IBM is behind the scenes, and we'll deliver a lot of our third component, which is services to our clients, and our services arm helps, develop systems, helps design and deploy systems into client environments. And I think that's kind of the beauty behind IBM. Certainly from a hardware perspective, one of the things I spend time learning and doing is looking at quantum. If you haven't, gotten your hands on a quantum system, it's available in the cloud. We call it IBM Q Experience. Go learn some of the fundamentals about quantum computing, regardless of whether you're a mechanical engineer, computer scientist, an electrical engineer. You need to know where is the next wave of technology from a hardware perspective going, and it is in the quantum realm. Figure out, what kind of algorithms would I be putting into a quantum environment from a cryptography perspective, new material sciences, new pharmaceutical drugs that I could invent. So I just spend my time, someone said, if you had to kind of describe your job, it is innovation, but what are you doing? I say, I daydream. I come up with ideas and say, what would I do with all this wonderful, amazing technology, and put that into my client environments.
Wow, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, perfect. And a quick little plug here, Romelia will be our keynote at the Tech Breakfast tomorrow morning with you guys. So I will see you bright and early, 7:45, and also at the SHPE Spotlight Series for us Latinas. So thank you for that. Sure. Luis, so a question for you, my friend. So rewind back to your senior year at UTEP, and through your experience, and you and I do a lot on campus engaging with students. So knowing what you know now, what advice would you have for our audience through the experiences that you've shared, recruiting, interviewing, so forth? What recommendations for those who are trying to land that full-time or internship job?
Well, I'll start off by saying that, all of you in here right now are you're in a position in your life where you really need to choose where you want to go, right? And every internship position that you apply for, in the back of your mind, you want to pursue your passions, right? So, if you want to work like with Watson and artificial intelligence, or you want to get into quantum computing, right? You want to start positioning yourself now to start getting that experience that'll open doors for you, right? So that's what I would say. You need to ask yourself that question, right? What do I want to do with my life, and start pursuing those opportunities, because what will happen is during interviews with those companies, you'll give the best of yourself during the interview, and it'll help you land that job or that opportunity. Why? Because you already feel passionate towards that, those concepts or what you want to do, right? And as a kid, when growing up, I was always curious about how things worked, and I remember I got a computer maybe at 12 years old. All the computers at the time were IBM compatible machines, okay? IBM computers were expensive to buy, so my family got a Packard Bell, which was an IBM compatible machine. And so that was my introduction to computers, and I thought, when I grow up, I want to work for the company that is the innovator, right? That other companies are trying to copy. And so that's why in my life I directed myself to go to IBM, and the first internship I got with IBM was testing, just testing hardware, and I always try to do the best work, right? So that's another thing you want to do. You want to give your best work. Why? Because that door opens, right? And you go into this position, and you want to show your best, right? Because when you leave, all those people that you work with can recommend you for your next position, right? So you want to do well. And I'll share a story. When I ended my internship, I want to say towards the end of 2003, I just focused on my studies just to get good grip on electrical engineering, and I wanted to do really good there. But I lost focus in looking for a job, right? I didn't look for a job at all. And so when I graduated, I had no job lined up. So you guys are doing the right thing and coming to SHPE, and getting your name out there and meeting company reps and that kind of thing. That's one thing I didn't do. But when I graduated, I reached out to my old boss at IBM, and I said, hey, his name's Lenny. I said, hey, Lenny, do you have something there for me? And he said, well, we're not hiring, but I'm going to pass your resume around. So, I interviewed in Tucson and in New York, and I decided to pursue the opportunity in New York. As a programmer, I was to write code to test cryptographic adapters for mainframes. And so I did that for 2 years. And I've held different positions at IBM. So I guess in summary, just pursue what, a passion of yours and point your life in that direction.
Great advice.
Yes. Thank you, Luis. We appreciate that. Okay, Karen. So a question for you. Can you share with us what SHPE means to you? I know you touched on it a little bit, but if you wouldn't mind sharing what SHPE means to you, how it has impacted your professional career.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been part of SHPE for 16 years. I actually knew of SHPE when I moved to the United States. My biology teacher said, you have to go to this summer program. It was a summer program that was focused on getting minority students to do STEM. And in that program, they talked about SHPE. And I remember him drawing like SHPE, and he said, it's the bridge to your job. And I have that picture in my mind, since then. Unfortunately, at the time when I graduated, because of legal issues, I wasn't able to go to the university. So I went to a community college for a year. And I remember trying to look for a SHPE chapter, but at the time, SHPE doesn't open to at the time, we didn't open schools and colleges because it's too short of a span for you to do a turnaround. So when I transferred into George Mason University, the first thing I went was to look for SHPE because I remembered that picture on that whiteboard that said that SHPE will get you a job. And so I remember thinking to myself, I went to the meeting and that was the one member, there was like 3 officers and it was me. And they're like, hey, Karen, do you want to go to this conference? It's in Philadelphia. We'll pay for you. And I said, okay, sure. So I went to the conference in Philadelphia. At the time, it used to be called, like we were divided by the Eastern Technical Career Conference, and then the West would do their own, and then the Middle would do their own. So I went to ETCC at the time. And it was the first time in my life that I had seen women and men that looked like me, that were dressed up, and we were all there for the same reason. And we were treated like equals. Not that, George Mason was it was an amazing school, but being in a class where you're a class of 45 and you're one of the 5 girls and you're the only Hispanic is kind of tough to understand, am I doing the right thing, So I think for me, it was that moment when I went to that conference and I saw that people who look like me, I was like, ooh, and they know what salsa is, and they know how to dance salsa, they know what merengue is. And it was so eye-opening, and I met so many people from the East Coast, from all these other schools, and I remember I finally realized we all come from so many different backgrounds, and we're all struggling with the same concepts, right? So a lot of us, you might be in a classroom where you're in calculus and you're thinking, man, this is so hard for me. It's probably hard for other people too. It's just that they know how to hide it really well. And so I made a lot of friends at the time. And that was the conference where I saw IBM get an award. And I remember Nick Donofrio, and for those of you who've been at IBM, remember him. He got up there and he said his speech, and he said, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I will never forget that phrase from him. And then they showed this awesome video about all the things that IBM was doing with the community. And I was like, one day I'm going to be up there receiving an award for IBM, and I'm going to work for that company. And so fast forward, 4 years later, I really wanted a job at IBM. I had gotten a software developer job at this company that does consulting. And unfortunately, I could never get my foot in the door. So it was like my last SHPE conference. And I went to the IBM booth 5 different times. I changed with 5 different outfits, and I talked to 5 different people because I thought if one of them doesn't like me, maybe the other 4 will, or maybe one of the 4. So I got a call. I went to their event in Atlanta, and it was the happiest moment in my life. It was a lab midterm, and I remember I got a call from an unknown number So I answered it, and it was, someone calling me and saying that they wanted me to join the Atlanta Career Fair. And I was like yelling in class, and my professor was like, what's wrong with her? Everyone else had a job already except for me. So it was the best moment. And then when I got the offer, they said, you have to move to Austin. And so for me, really, SHPE is the only reason why I'm at IBM. And even at IBM, I moved to Austin, I knew no one, right? So I told myself, stop, my mom was so upset that I decided to move to Texas, but I said, at some point I need to just grow. So I expanded my wings, I left, and I knew 0 people. And so I reached out to the SHPE Austin chapter, and one person replied like within 10 minutes and said, yeah, we're a team of 5, you're welcome to join us. And ever since then, I met Luis through SHPE. I've met amazing individuals through SHPE Professional. And the best thing about it is that you can be a SHPE leader and use those leadership qualities when they're asking you about, in your interviews, hey, can you talk about a time where you had to lead a team and how did it go? Because we do this every day as leaders, right? That was, I think, what got me the job. A lot of people say that they had Googled my name, and my name, I had gotten an award for SHPE because I was like the best chapter president for for one conference. And they said, we looked up your name and we saw you got awards, and we were like, oh, we have to hire her. So tip, they do Google your name. But second thing, so SHPE has just been sort of like the epicenter for everything I've done. I get to learn how to be a leader and make mistakes for free where it doesn't cost me anything. And then I apply those at work.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And while I had this question in mind for you at a later point, I think this is a good time to kind of piggyback off of what you shared, because Karen has really, she's made an impact. Diversity is very important for IBM. It's at the top of IBM's priorities initiatives, and Karen has made a tremendous impact through her outreach and supporting the IBM Latino community. So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit about the business resource groups, and the other panelists are more than welcome to chime in, since I know we are all a part of that, but you help drive those efforts for the IBM team. Could you tell us a little bit about what is the business resource group and the group you represent?
Sure. So a business research group at IBM is the same as what you'll hear called an employee research group. So what it is, it's a focal of individuals who meet in whatever site, let's say IBM Austin. I've been part of IBM Austin's business research group called HIP, Hispanics in Partnership, but we're also HIP. So I've been part of it for 11 years, and I have met some of the best mentors I've had through that organization. So it's essentially a volunteering opportunity. You do your job, and then you get to volunteer, to be part of this essentially committee. And what you do is you plan events for other IBMers in Austin, people like me who just moved to Austin who know no one, right? So you want to create a family, essentially, so that you're not only able to, retain the talent, but also together you guys can help recruit, right? So we have a lot of professional development events. It's kind of like a mini SHPE, but just at work. And the best thing about it is that you have executive sponsors. So, I have these vice presidents who reach out to us, and they help us with our events. They provide a lot of feedback. I believe that's how we met with Leslie through HIP. I also got you involved. And I know Romelia leads the Dallas Chapter 1. And I think, when you go out there and you look for a company to work for, this is very important, because just like you felt in school where it was just you and you felt like a lot of people who didn't look like you or who didn't share some of the same themes as you, that will also be a job, right? So a lot of people always say, oh, don't join a big company because you're just a little fish in a big sea. But this is essentially how we break that barrier, through the business research groups. And to be honest, IBM has been in Austin for 50 years, and the BRG has been active. We are the most active business research group. There's men, LGBT, the women's, the veterans, the disabled, the Native Americans, the African Americans. And we are the most active, and we've actually had business research groups from other companies like Facebook and Google and HomeAway reach out to us. And we've created this partnership of all the Latino business research groups in Austin, which is great, but the best thing about it is that we are like the trendsetters. The events we host with the amount of people who show up to our events, you know, they can't do that. So they always come to us for best practices. So I think that was a proud moment, is whatever we're doing at IBM, because IBM's been doing diversity for a long time. Like before anyone had numbers out there about diversity, we've been doing it, right? So I think when you go to whatever company you interview, ask that, right? Do you have something that I can call a familia? Because when you leave your undergraduate, you're gonna feel like you need what you had in college. And if there's no professional chapter or SHPE, you can start one, or you can go to a company that really embraces diversity.
Perfect, thank you.
So
Thank
can I
you.
have a couple
wanna
of
be
Yes,
hip.
yes, and,
Oh, you can be him.
Yes.
no, please
I'll start
do.
emailing you.
So I, you know, I run the Dallas Business Resource Group, and I would say we're a small team. We're not as large as the Austin Resource Group, but it's one of the funnest things that I do. You know, we get together for Hispanic Heritage Month. We get together just as, you know, IBMers that are all Hispanic to talk a little bit about the challenges we face at work, to talk a little bit about how do we help the community. You know, we're doing a project with a food bank right now to try and ensure we're contributing to the community as a Latin team. And I find it to be, you know, an amazing support group. You know, a lot of the folks that are on my team, you know, tend to be younger than me, and they'll say, you know, you're our leader, and I'm like, yeah, but you know what? You guys lead me because you're showing me, you know, what drives our current Latin community within IBM and trying to get them excited about how do we bring in newer IBMers that are all Hispanic or, you know, diverse kind of candidates. You know, as Gloria mentioned, I am on our Hispanic Executive Council. That is a council that is, you know, consists of members from all across the United States. And we're all, you know, executives at the IBM company. And I just love being on the council because, you know, our leaders, Pat Cronin and Jesus Mantas, they do a fabulous job of making us all focus on what are the things we need to do to drive more Hispanics and enable more opportunity and to help our Hispanics, you know, that are striving to become distinguished engineers or, you know, IBM fellows or other executives within the IBM company. And we focus on all those issues across the IBM company. And it really is amazing to see the partnership we have with our HR team, like with Gloria and with Ceci, to help us kind of drive our executive council and put together the right actions to help us succeed.
Oh, yeah.
And let me say something also that to sort of emphasize that point about Hispanic representation in the leadership. I mean, I'll just give you my example. One of our, you know, we have, you know, all the vice presidents and stuff, but my leadership is, his name is Angel Diaz, and his boss is Wilfredo Tejada. So I see Hispanic representation every day when they're yelling at me, and so it is. So I don't, at least I can't complain. There's no other reason. They're yelling at me for something else. But so that's actually really wonderful, and it's really nice to see that, and it's nice to see leadership not just at the executive level, but at the executive, you know, leadership, but also at the technical leadership. That's representative. So I think that's actually really great, and I don't know how different it is, but it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I wanted to add something
Yes,
actually.
please do.
So, in terms of for you guys, it's also easy for you guys as interns to also be part of your own special group that we call Future Blue, which is being a future IBMer, and where, you know, favorite color is blue. There's a big group wherever big city or whatever city you end up going to for those that, you know, when we hire all of you guys. But eventually finding a group that's in the same situation as you guys as well. We're all interns. How do we make ourselves, you know, provide a lasting impression to whatever team you're part of because you want to work at IBM, or how do you get the best experience, right? Because you want to be able to do the job that's fantastic, but you're already inside of a huge company that has 300,000 people where you can find the expert or whoever created who knows what in the technology era, right? So you really want to be able to take that chance of connecting with the right people, finding out who else lives in the city that maybe I can connect with to be a mentor for myself and things like that. and there's tons of networks where you can understand, hey, there's one for interns and for new hires as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Hopefully you guys have caught on to our IBM Familia while we're, I know some folks can be a bit intimidated by the size of IBM, but truly we're a tight-knit family, and it's very easy for me if the Hispanic executive team has always made me feel that I can easily pick up the phone and call Romelia, and she'll take my call. She'll take my Slack, my instant message, and very welcoming. So I just definitely want to reiterate that while we're a big global company, we're really a tight-knit family and easy to connect with the extended team. So I will take this opportunity to hopefully, Todd, take a question from our virtual audience.
Yes, thank you. I had a question for the whole panel. What surprised you most about IBM when you first started, and is there anything you would like to change?
Okay. How about Leslie, would you like to start? Leslie?
Sure. So I'd say when I was a student, I'm a computer engineer. You're looking at, hey, what are going to be, big options that I want to look at? And I'd say the one thing that you don't think about IBM is, IBM, you don't think of us as, hey, we're going to be in the latest and greatest technology sometimes. You might think, hey, we might still be doing computers, which, by the way, we don't, right? We got rid of that 10 years ago. But when you come into IBM, you start seeing that it's a very different environment. We're looking at how to maintain ourselves, to be innovative. What's the next thing coming? We have a huge research department that's already working on things that you'll end up hearing in the next couple of years that they're already thinking of, that you'll be like, wow, blowing my mind here. And they're always looking ahead. It's a company that's been around for 107 years, so they've adapted over the years, over the decades, made sure that they always stay on the right course and see, hey, where do we need to be so that we can last, another 100 years. I think that's what we have. We have a lot of culture in there, and it's something that I've heard from other interns, past interns that come through and they finish their internship, and they're like, you know what, the experience I got here was not what I expected. And because of that, I really want to come back the next year, or at least start applying for full time, because the job, you can do anything anywhere else. You can be a programmer at all these jobs, but the type of people you meet, the experience you get is it's a lot different, and it's unexpected. So it's a good feeling after.
I appreciate that. Yes, please do, Manny.
Yeah, I have something to add. Actually, two things really surprised me about IBM. Number one was how, the last couple of years at UTEP, I remember I used to, I'd park, and as I'd walk to my lab, I'd be saying hi to everyone, and it's like I knew a bunch of people, and it was really a really friendly environment. And I think that's the same thing in IBM. The longer I'm here, the more people I know. So it's really great that you go and you say hi to somebody, talk to somebody, and all that. And sort of an addendum to that is that one of the biggest misconceptions is that a company so big has to have all these rigid processes for this. But the secret is that if you know somebody and if you just talk to people, it's so easy to get stuff done. And that people are willing to help you, like Rosmelia said, that you just, or Karen said, that you just talk to, send a message, they talk to you, they help you out, and they're like, all right, the right way to do it is this way, but let's just get it done, and then we'll go back and do the right way. And it's such a friendly, it's a place that's not what I was expecting, right? I was expecting something really different. And anyway, to me, that was like a big eye opener where it's really the same life I had in college. I effectively have now. All I do is maybe not in undergrad, but in graduate school, where it was just playing with technology, doing stuff that I like. That's the way it is right now. And it's people call me up, you help them out. It's just part of the culture, and that's just something that sort of, as an IBMer, you're used to that. You're just helping people all the time.
Definitely, I agree. We're very much a teaming environment.
Yeah.
So Todd, can we give our live audience the opportunity to ask a question? Okay. So we will go ahead, and Manny, forgive me. Leslie, I have a question for you that I have here on standby. Yes, forgive me.
He had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't see you. Forgive me.
Come
Please
up to
take
the
the
mic.
mic.
Yeah, come on up.
I'm so sorry. My team keeps me honest. Thank you.
All right.
Brave soul coming up. Thank you. Now, if you
Alright.
wouldn't mind introducing yourself and letting us know the region you represent and the school.
So my name is Ruben Ujoa. I'm from Region 4, and I represent NYU.
Oh, perfect.
So question I have for you guys, as both as a Latino and Latinas, and as a full-time employee of IBM, what is the best and worst thing about like IBM?
Oh, yeah.
What is the
and
best?
worst?
Yeah.
Best and worst thing who would like to take, okay.
So one of the best experiences I've had, and there's a program at IBM called Corporate Service Corps. It's a program where you get to do pro bono consulting somewhere in the world. IBM will send you they keep your job, they send you somewhere in the world for a month, and you get to do volunteer work. And when you come back, your job is guaranteed, and you're a changed person essentially. So there's very few companies who do this. It's kind of like the Peace Corps, but very, very fast. So I was selected to go. In 2015, I got to go to the Philippines. I had never been to Southeast Asia. And it was the best life-changing experience I've had. I've always wanted to change the world. I've always said, oh, I want to change the world. But when I was there, I was like, ooh, I really now can change the world, because I see how other countries think and how everyone looks up to the US as being such a great nation. But then also we can literally bring our first world country ideas to other places in the world and help them solve their problems. So for me, that was the best experience I had. You can only do it once in your career, so I wish, if I could say, I wish that they could do it more. And honestly, I think for the worst, maybe it's that I can't do that program again. I wish that they kept it. I actually don't, and I'm not just saying this because I'm up here, but I feel that every complaint I have of IBM is just a complaint that every person has of a company. I'm very happy to be there. So.
Maybe I'll take a shot at the worst. Probably about 5 years ago, one of the things that I did was I ran a worldwide team. So, when you think IBM, think big, 300,000 IBMers around the world. I loved what I was doing. I was in a team called the IBM Academy of Technology, which is a lot of our top technologists in the IBM Corporation working together from around the world. And I was asked by the Academy president, would I run all of the affiliates? Affiliates are smaller teams of technologists. They're located in all parts of the world. And he said, could you help me operate, that whole environment and make sure that all these teams are connecting with each other, they're collaborating together, they're learning from each other. And I would say, the worst thing about IBM is I got myself going, I got the teams going. I met people from around the world, and they all know who I am. And I've never met them all face to face, so I'd say the worst thing is I couldn't travel around the world and meet each and every person face to face. But I tell you what, every now and then you run into someone, like Wanda is a great example where I met her probably about 20 years ago at IBM. We were on phone calls together, and this week is the first time I see her face to face. Since we were hugging each other, it's like you know each other. So the worst part about it is those positions are kind of, every now and then opportunities. I had that wonderful opportunity for about 3 years that I got to be the worldwide program manager for the Academy affiliates. And the worst part of it was letting it go, because IBMers really are unique people. And I could tell you that I could probably travel anywhere in the world and reach out to someone in those locations, and they'll slack with me, they'll help me out, they'll be there to kind of guide me through any situation that I may have in that particular country. So that's some of the best and some of the worst all rolled into one. I too had the wonderful experience of doing a Smarter Cities Challenge in New Orleans and got deployed there. And I know a lot of my colleagues were like, wow, the best thing about the experience, going through one of these Smarter City Challenges is consulting with the city, meeting city personnel. That's kind of what I do in my day job. And so to me, that was nothing new and different. What was new and different to me was meeting my fellow IBMers that were of all walks of life. And they all were like, Romelia, we're going to go running. And I'm a walker, I'm not a runner. So I was like, we're going to do what? And they're like, we're going to go running. And I said, no, you all go running, I'll walk. And then Kerry Hawley, who is a good friend of mine, he is an ex-IBMer and he's a fellow. And he said, we're going to go do yoga. So he introduced me to yoga in this experience, and I've been doing yoga ever since. I go 3-4 times a week, and I'd say that's one of the best things that I ever did for myself, health-wise and just attitude-wise, and having that mindfulness around me. So you never know what you're going to learn in your projects, whether it be something deep technical or whether it be something as simple as going out and doing some yoga. And that's part of the beauty of working at a company like IBM.
So I have something. One of the things that was really unexpected is that because I was in development, I thought that I would be stuck in an office, you know, windowless office, and just code all day. My office is windowless, though. But what's interesting is that, you know, in IBM, you have this great opportunity because we have customers everywhere. You end up traveling to places that you wouldn't expect. I spent a lot of time in Brazil. I spent a lot of time in Spain. I spent a lot of time all over the US. I was talking to somebody from Cincinnati. I spent some time in Cincinnati. But then beyond that, as we moved into the open source, we've actually gone to gone as speakers to conferences like the ones for Kubernetes, OpenStack, Docker. In the last 6 years, we've been to, you know, Paris, Barcelona, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Vancouver, all over the world. We've been to conferences, and this is something where it's a technical thing, but you get to see the world, right? And one of the things that I don't like that was actually unexpected was that, as Rosmelia said, we have worldwide teams. So unfortunately, that means you have meetings at 5 a.m. or at 10 p.m. or at 1 a.m. It is you're asking people to join you at a terrible hour, and sometimes people ask you to join them at a terrible hour.
But it's fun.
But it's fun.
It's always fun. It's always great, but it's just, I wasn't expecting that, right? You expect 9 to 5, it's never 9 to 5.
Yeah, Manny packs his Valentina sauce everywhere you go. I
Yes,
know you miss
yes,
it. Gotta have
absolutely.
that. So how about another brave soul out there, our live audience? Okay, wonderful. Oh, thank you. Hello.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kat Lewandowska. I am a material science and engineering major from the University of Florida, and I am from Region 7. And my question is, so one of the slogans of IBM is think. What does this mean to you, and how does it apply to the work that you do at IBM?
Oh, wow. Who would like to take that?
I'll start us off. To me, think is exactly what the word means, to think, to pensar, right? And it's all about doing things wisely, being efficient, effective with our clients. It's about producing top-notch products for the IBM company, and it's about imagining the future, right? And thinking through, what would I put into the world in the future? That's what the whole slogan of Think is all about, and you know, it's one of our big, you know, things at IBM. You'll see some of us wearing T-shirts that say Think, you know, or have the IBM logo, and it is something we're all very proud of because it is, you know, about our future.
It's a great one. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
you know, but think is a big deal. To me, I see it like a call to action, like think, right? So to me, like on our team, it's like we're never experts at everything. So it just gives you, it's an opportunity, learn this, figure it out, think. And so we see it as a positive call to action.
For sure. So we'll try to get through the questions if that's all right. Next, thank you for.
Hi, my name's Angel, and I was sitting there. I was literally going over like the 101 questions that I have for you guys. I spend pretty much like all of my time outside of school, like just reading articles on artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of that, and it's something that I have a great interest in. And so I narrowed it down to 2, and I hope that you guys can answer them up. So the first question is, it deals with the existential threat that AI poses. And I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Stephen Hawking's work on that and his forewarning on that. And also, Steve Wozniak, Elon Musk, they're very vocal people about those threats that AI, they believe, can pose. My question to the panel would be, what solutions do you guys see, like, or not even so much solutions or even rebuttals? Like, do you guys have an actual, just like an idea of like more looking at it, more of a positive outlook of what AI could do? I mean, when you look at things like AlphaZero and all that stuff, it's like really intimidating to think, wow, like this could like really be like something that could be posed, like, again, a real threat. And so that's my first question, and I just want to leave you guys to answer that.
Did you go to our AI session earlier today?
I did. I was
Oh
not
my
able
God.
to.
So you missed my response to that.
Okay, perfect.
I do have a response.
Okay, I would love to hear it, yes.
So my views are, AI is a new technology. When I think about growing up, I remember a television set being a big threat in my home, right? My parents would brought home, big TV, and people were like, oh my gosh, there's radiation that's being emitted from the television set, and it's gonna, poison the brains of all these kids that are sitting in front of the TV. Certainly, I don't know that I have any brain poisoning right now, but I think I survived a TV set. I remember, telephones coming into my home. I was watching The Voice the other day, and there was a Jim Croce song that talked about operator, right? And the guy that was singing the song, he was really young, and he's like, what's an operator, right? And it's like those jobs are gone. You have to kind of continue to evolve and continue to do new things. The internet, I remember when that came out in the 1990s, people being afraid of, oh my God, what is the World Wide Web going to do to us? I mean, how many of you guys would live without the internet?
Oh my God.
Yeah, none of us, right? So I do believe there are waves of technology, and AI is one of those waves. Certainly, we're at our infancy in AI, and some of the cool things that we're doing, developing tools to detect bias into data, developing, the assessment of all these data sets. So being a data scientist, being, an engineer, a software designer that can, design these systems in an effective way to be able to proactively detect things and ensure the safety of your company is really big. We have people at IBM that are well focused on what are the right uses of augmented intelligence and what is the right way to present this technology out in the industry. And we work with other major corporations on those kinds of things. So I don't view AI as something to be afraid of. I view AI as something that we need to continue to embrace and continue to shape so that we mold it into what we need it to be for our future.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, just so to be mindful of the time, could I give these guys the opportunity to ask their question? But
Okay.
they'll be around
Okay.
shortly after.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Aman Ramnani. I'm a part of Region 4 from Rutgers University.
Welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it. My question specifically entailed to, I think, what you said, where you talked about service and how you're essentially creating systems for and developing them to implement for clients. For any of the panelists, what has been your experience doing that as opposed to the other stuff that you've done at IBM? And I just want to get a little more information on that.
Who has the short answer?
So I think working in services is really cool. It's a nice way to view different parts of the world. Like Manny said, when I was in service, I traveled all around the US and Latin America because a lot of my clients were in those geographies. It's a good way to see the world. It's a good way to gain a lot of valuable experience rolling up your sleeves, deploying solutions into a client environment.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
just a quick thing. It was really cool. One of the opportunities I did was design and deploy the point of sale system for Gap. And so it was cool that for a bunch of years I would go to Gap and I'm like, I know how that works.
From the inside?
From the inside, yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. I want to be sure I get to as many of you as possible. Name and where you're
Hello, my name is Robert Maldonado, and I'm from Region 2. And this is less of a technical question than it is personal. So something that I struggle with myself, and I see my colleagues struggle with, is imposter syndrome. And I was wondering, have you guys encountered imposter syndrome, and how have you dealt with it?
I deal with imposter syndrome every day. I look really young, and so people told me it's going to be very hard. Like, I've had people tell me in my face, you look really young, you like to dress up too much, you're probably never going to be a manager. Look at me now. 11 years later, I'm a manager, and I'm actually one of the tough ones. So don't let that discourage you from being who you really want to be. Everyone encounters imposter syndrome. As minorities, there's like a statistic that we probably encounter it a lot more. But don't you ever doubt yourself, because no one knows what you don't know. But the minute that you let others see what you don't know, and it's okay to say, hey, I don't understand that, I'll come back. So yeah, just keep that in mind. No one knows what you don't know. So I always tell that to myself, so I go into a meeting and I'm always ready. So.
Yeah,
Karen owns it for sure.
I'm going to say one thing.
Oh,
I'm going
sorry.
to say one thing. Anytime you do something new, right, you fake it until you make it. So,
No, but,
right, I love it.
keep in mind,
Right.
and I see this every day where, like I said, we're not experts at anything, at everything. So we know what we know yesterday. And in the future, it's not that we're expected, like people on the team, we're not expected to know everything. What we're expected to is use the skills of troubleshooting, of collaboration, of investigation to find out and become good at things. So the answer to your thing is, yeah, like sometimes we're like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Well, pull up your sleeve, roll up your sleeves, and get to work,
And
right?
also
Because
use your
that's the way to do it.
I think a good thing to do is use your network. I know a
Yep.
smart STSM that I'm going to be plugging into.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, thank you. And we have about 3-4 minutes to go. And while the live session will cut off, that does not mean you guys have to leave. We do have a hard stop at the top of the hour, but that just means for our session. So don't feel that you have to rush off when we wrap things up here live. So the next question.
All right. My name is Rogelio Serafin. I am from Fresno State, located in Region 1. And a question that I wanted to ask you guys is, what's your motivation factor? Because I know that individuals that graduate with an engineering degree typically burn out 10 to 15 years after they graduate. What pushes you? What motivates you guys?
Competition. I'm so competitive, you couldn't even imagine it.
So sweet.
Yeah,
feisty side.
one of the things that I do at work is I invent, right? And there's a co-inventor of mine, they'd put us together. And I tell you what, if he'd come in with an idea, I'd say, I'm going to one-up you. And I'd one-up him. And then he'd one-up me. And then I'd one-up him. But you know what? People would look at us and they think, my God, they're strange. They're competing with each other. But I tell you what, we have probably together about 10 U.S. patents. And it's all based on client work and things we were doing to propel the client and move them forward. Embrace competition. Figure out what makes you tick. I'm glad you're asking the question because you do have to as an individual. I'm not saying all of you should be competitive. I'm saying you need to figure out what makes you tick and what makes you propel your work to the next level. I think also embrace being a continuous learner. You have to continue to refine your skills and learn new and different things so that you kind of keep yourself up to date and work at a company that enables you to do that. That's a key thing for your future.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can sneak one more question in while we're live.
Hello, my name is Rafael Lucina. I'm from Florida Atlantic University, Region 7.
Oh, wow.
And I actually went to the panel
Yeah,
earlier.
I remember you.
Yeah. So following up on that competition and talking about Watson, something that got me really curious is the end game. You discussed how augmented intelligence is still in its early stages. So what does it mean to be on the late stages? Does that mean that perhaps we'll be working with Watson on every project and then we clock out for the day and Watson's going to be right at it? So we come back the next day and he has it all done?
Yeah, I think Watson's going to be everywhere in the future. Certainly as many places as IBM can get it into, we will certainly pursue that as an IBM company. Artificial intelligence is all around us, right? Just like the internet is all around us. And we got to learn to embrace that technology and figure out where do we move it to the next level. So yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
I
Thank
actually
you.
wanted
How
to
are
add
we
to
doing
that.
on
I wanted to
time?
add to that
Forgive
real
me.
quick.
Are we good on time, Todd? Okay, thank you.
I want to do a quick add to that is that the way we also look at AI is it's not just AI or human, it's more like AI and human, where we take the best of both worlds and we try to create a system where we can actually do something together. Because AI, computing systems, they do things that we can't do. For example, they can run 24 hours, 7 days a week, on running processes, running different applications all the time, while we can help with analyzing information from a different approach, a more human, emotional approach, and that's always a big factor as well. So we always want to be able to provide a way where humans and AI can work together on a lot of that. So, and I think that's an area that we actually push a lot, and that's probably one next area we're going to get into, and then we'll see what happens later down the road.
Thank you, Leslie. So, Todd, do we have time for one virtual question or no? Okay, so guys, thank you so much for coming out here this afternoon. Like I said, you don't have to run out of here just yet, but for our virtual audience, thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to connecting with you through our talent network. Have a good afternoon.
My question is, going back to your comment saying that you want to stay competitive and learn new skills. Coming as a mechanical engineering, major, how exactly does my roles will play with IBM or in the tech industry? Obviously, I'm trying to be more competitive in learning coding and doing excessive things, but at what point does it become irrelevant, or what roles would a mechanical engineer actually be able to contribute to your role, say an electrical engineer, computer engineer, or any of those aspects that we won't be able to correlate?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, our hard work, yeah.
So from my point of view, it's always about looking at what's going on around you, right? And you know, when I started at IBM, I was doing, you know, assembly level programming, right? Think zeros and ones and really AX and DX registers and geeky, gorky stuff like that. And I looked around me and I said, my gosh, everyone's learning C. And I'm over here doing assembler and COBOL, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna learn new things. I think it's also embracing the older things and saying, how can I make sure I stand out in the work that I deliver? You know, some of my systems are still in, you know, running in production environments at major corporations and institutions. And so it's important to think about how do you keep up with things, but also embrace the older things and have a good balance of it all. And it's a tough challenge, but we all face it. I don't think anyone can say they know everything about all the new technologies. It's learning the things that are pertinent, you know, to your job. I love playing like connect the dots, and I write down, okay, I have this opportunity, this opportunity, this opportunity, and I say, okay, on this one I'm gonna be doing IoT, on this one I would be doing blockchain, on this one I'd be doing cognitive, on this one I'd be doing cognitive, and then trying to find relationships, because the more you find relationships and you say, gee, half of my projects I could be doing cognitive on, that gets you in the forefront of being one of the premier people in the IBM company focused on cognitive, right? So you want to, you know, think logically about how you pursue the things you want to be learning about.
Thank you. Now, guys, we're still having conversations up front, so for those of you, if you wouldn't mind the background noise, taking it outside, we would appreciate that. Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Dario Leal. I'm from Region 5 from Texas A&M Kingsville.
Fun.
I have a question. So everybody has a different path they took to get to IBM, and everybody was entry level at some point. What was a difficulty you faced making that transition from college into the real company lifestyle?
Oh, good one. Leslie, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I could take
While
that.
it's fresh on your mind?
Yeah, of course, real fresh. So I graduated 5 years ago from University of South Florida, and then I went over to Texas. And I think that, you know, being in engineering, it's a different world. You're constantly under pressure. You're going through all these projects, trying to finish your classes. At the same time, you're trying to do a lot of life, you know, balance different things, jobs, trying to balance the personal life, trying to enjoy college as well. But then there's always an initial stress-free period, kind of like a freshman 15 that happens when you first enter a job. You're like, wow, I got a job. I made it. I'm set for the rest of my life. And that's it. I have to do nothing else, and I'm good. And so that lasts for about, you know, a couple months, maybe a year before you start realizing, all right, so what am I going to do next? But the lifestyle changes where, you know, now you're really getting to think about new things. You just became a freshman in the real world. Because now you got to think about, all right, well, now that I'm here, what do I got to think about next? You always have to really think about that. And there's always a time where you just kind of settle, you know, I need to enjoy myself because I worked hard to get here. But then you still have a lot more to go after that, right? But it's a different scenario, different world. And at least now you've already gone through major humps by then, you know, and now you can actually think about what do you want to do, your lifestyle, and how you want to set it up, you know, day to day. So.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering that. I'll go ahead and get this gentleman here. I know you've been waiting for a while.
So hi, my name is Daniel Zarco. I'm from the University of Virginia in Region 4. And I know that IBM has various things working in all sorts of disciplines. And I was wondering what the most interesting or unexpected collaboration between teams any of you guys have been involved with are.
Let me answer that one. So again, I'm completely technical, open source advocacy infrastructure. We work really closely with design. So we have a design team, and it's not just a user interface thing. It really is working together to understand problems. And in fact, in our organization, design and development are under the same second line management. So that we work very closely with that. And you know, it's also interesting we get to work with, in the past I've worked with sales, with marketing and all that, but really the most interesting thing is design, because it allows us to build better products that are used and consumable, as opposed to if you just let developers do something, one thing could, like, it's good for us. And if you let designers just do something, they go off in the other thing. But working together, it's like, peanut butter and chocolate.
Ugh.
One of the things you can do is go out to IBM.com and look up enterprise design thinking and start learning a little bit about design thinking and what that design effort is all about. And I think obtain a badge if you can. There's digital badges that IBM offers on our platform. So get in there and do that because it's cool stuff. I'm a designer.
Beautiful, thank you. And just to be fair, because I'm going to go all the way up to the gentleman with the with the scarf, and then we'll start back over here. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Guillermo Sanchez. I'm from the University of California, Irvine, and I know that you guys have been working from developing hardware, developing software, developing and now services, and now developing even new technologies. I mean, you guys even helped Costco develop their JIT inventory system management. You guys went from also stepping your foot onto the healthcare business by giving Watson and also helping healthcare companies determine what customers would be like the best, and also offering the best services for all these new institutions that are growing. But what do you do when you fail?
I don't fail.
Failure doesn't know how to
failure is not an option.
No.
No. Every time failure happens, you have to pick yourself up and figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? And then figure out how can I go in and rectify anything that may be failing, right? So you reach out to your network, you reach out to resources that are there at IBM. One of the cool things about IBM is we are so rich in resources, you can always find someone to help you rectify the situation, right? One of my colleagues was telling me about a situation where he went out and he got out in front of a client and it didn't go too well. So he called me up and he's like, hey, I need help, right? And so I told him, okay, what is it that we're doing? And I'm in there to help him, right? So he's not alone. And I think that's one of the good things about being at IBM. You're not alone and you're not going to fail and say, that's all I can ever do. There's always colleagues all around you. I know if I could reach out to Gloria, she'll help me out. Luis will help me out. Any of these guys, would jump in and help me kind of figure out what new cloud thing am I going to be doing? What new hardware thing do I need? So never feel like you're alone, especially if you're in a large company like IBM.
And IBM has adopted agile development, the agile development process, and it also it applies to a lot of things, right?
Fail fast.
So if you like every time you have like a retrospective meeting at the end of a sprint, right? People will say, oh well, this isn't working too well, or we could do better here or there, and that's when that's where you do like an auto correction, so that you don't get to the point where you fail completely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a wonderful point.
Yeah, so that's just one thing.
And that's actually really interesting because when I joined IBM, there used to be called the postmortems. And postmortem was about whose fault it was. And now it's not about that. Now it's retrospective, like, yeah, all right, well, you failed, are you good? All right, let's fix it. Let's prevent this from ever happening again. And so, like, yeah, we failed like spectacularly. We've had like very important websites go down at the wrong time. We've had all that, but like every time, it's never failed for the same reason twice, right? And that's like the key to this. And it's not, it just happens. And the attitude can be either whose fault it is, or how can we just ensure that this never happens again.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
great
it.
question.
Thank
Also,
you.
Quick question. Do you guys think Red Hat is going to be renamed to Blue Hat?
I love it. Maybe. That's a good point. I love it.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you for your you've been waiting for a while. We appreciate you sticking with it.
Hello, my name is Tomas Moskov. I'm the chapter president for Florida State University, Region 7. My question is pretty straightforward. Where do you think smart homes will be in 5 years, and how is IBM helping that technology grow?
Who would like to take that?
So I see all kinds of things happening in home environments. Certainly I've been seeing things about video surveillance in your home, right? Securing your neighborhoods, doing things of that nature. I've also been seeing smarter appliances. So think about well-connected appliances within your home, your security systems. You're already seeing energy and utilities. Think of your smarter meters that are going into your own home. and being able to monitor things for you, not to mention things like, smarter garages and, temperature controls, lighting controls, all those kinds of things that are being applied to the household. I think, certainly IBM is going to play in the enterprise realm, which is why, we're going to see, IBM won't be the GE of the world, but we may help and partner with companies like GE or other vendors to help supply their products into the home environment.
Very good, thank you, thank you. All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Catherine Trevino. I'm from the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley as well, Region 5. And my question was kind of going off of what Karen said about how she went to the Philippines. What other type of opportunities does IBM give you to not only be a well-rounded engineer, but also a well-rounded person?
Oh, gosh.
Maternity leave.
Yes.
For the women in the audience, the vast number of women in the audience, I know I have taken advantage of IBM's maternity leave twice. And I took extended leaves of absence, meaning, maybe IBM gave me 6 weeks of leave, and then what I do is I extend it out for a year, and they were very tolerant of me doing that. The Smarter City Challenges were a wonderful thing that I've experienced at IBM. Also being able to do, outreach in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have one of the largest outreach chapters that, goes out and visits young students at elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and those are the people you guys need to be mentoring so that we can spend our time focused on you all and mentoring university level students. So certainly there's all kinds of opportunities, for give back, all kinds of wonderful things you can take advantage of in the IBM company, and I would encourage you to look into all of that, especially all the education and training. To me, if part of what I tell my kids is, one of the questions you should be asking on your interview is, okay, I've invested 4 years of my parents' money into, getting my education. What is my next company going to invest in me to help me continue to evolve my education and skills, and how much of that can I do on a yearly basis? Some companies may give you 1 week of training every year. I will say IBM is extremely generous. A lot of our young new hires get about 7-8 months of training when they come on board to IBM. Imagine someone paying you, to just go to classes and learn, and don't be afraid of learning. Yeah.
And so some of the opportunities, they come to you because of I guess who you are and what you bring to the table. So I remember, so I've had a lot of different roles at IBM. One, I was a developer at one point, and then later I went to customer support, and I troubleshot computer network problems. And I did that for about 8 years. But 4 of those, when I was at the 4th year, I told my manager, I said, hey, I'm a little bored of like the same routine because I get these problems, I solve them. Is there a way that I can get like more leadership type roles and that kind of thing? And he said, well, you know what, let me think about that. And later, a few months later, he called me into his office and he said, hey, Luis, we've got this problem. And what we're trying to solve is we want to be able to do support worldwide. But the teams that we have in the other parts of the world, they don't have the skills that our teams have, right? So what can we do? And so what we needed to do was really train other parts of the world. So I got sent to Asia. So I went to China. I was there for 1 month and a week in Japan. And my mission there was just to, interview everybody, see what kind of skills they had, and see where we needed to build skills so that we could have a strong support team there, and we could have, better, like a 24/7 type of support system for IBM clients. So it was like an opportunity that just came to me, right? And after that, I was kind of the go-to person to go anywhere. It was like, oh, we need somebody to go to Brazil for this, or go to this other place for that, or this, and I would just go, right? But that's just me because I like to travel, and I like to be in. Whenever you take an uncomfortable situation and you participate in it, you grow, right? So you want to, you always want to do that. You fight the urge in your brain that says, no, don't do it. You're going to fail. Do it. Yeah, because even if you fail, you're going to learn from it. So just do it. even though your brain fights against you.
Thank you,
And
Luis. Thank
those
you.
and those are win-win situations, right? If you fail, you were expected to fail, and if you succeed, you're amazing.
There you go. Well said, Manny. We'll take it, yes, your introduction.
Hello, my name is Asal del Rosario. I'm a mechanical engineering and computer science student from the University of South Florida, and I belong to Region 7. My question was, for us engineers that have a passion into dabbling into new sources of knowledge, new disciplines, in a fast-growing world when it comes to technological advancement like today, and knowing that a day only has like 24 hours, how do you prioritize gathering new knowledge and applying it to your day-to-day work?
Take that.
I could take that one. I mean, so I work with different clients all the time that are always thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to do. For example, automotives. Any automotive manufacturing car maker, they're always thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to do for the driver, or driverless cars or things like that. They're always thinking about what is the next thing about it. And sometimes I'll go into discussion and they just tell me their ideas, and I'm like, let me check in on that real quick. I need to read up on some of that, because sometimes some of these ideas, they're really thinking so far ahead about what they're trying to do, but you also need to think about how can you make that vision, actually plausible or doable for them. And then that's where I get to think about what are the technologies that can get them there, over time, and how can I start learning about those technologies? Because if these guys are thinking about that, maybe other people in the same industry are also thinking about that, or other things around that. And so then you start seeing trends happen, and then that's where we start suddenly hearing these buzzwords come out of nowhere, and that's how they come out, because everybody starts doing it. Nobody wants to be left out. So blockchain was a big example for me. I mean, last year I barely heard about Bitcoin. Now, 1 year later, I'm a blockchain expert. Because everybody's talking about blockchain. We're suddenly having a blockchain platform. We have big companies leveraging our platform in blockchain, and that's something that I can talk about now, right? So I know that, hey, everybody's talking about blockchain, big buzz. I didn't invest in anything, cryptocurrencies or anything, but at least for the platform, the technology, I knew that was my priority, so I put time into that. And that's something that you see, IBM's always in front. They try to get in front of it.
We need to spend 1 minute per.
But let me say that, so like my job, I have to know what's coming, and just because I know all the problems that I have, I know where I want to be, I just don't know sometimes how to get there, so I have to be looking. But it's not, so I spend a lot of time looking and reading about like the new technologies and the open source stuff, the new trends, but it's not a job, it's not part of the job. Like if I was working at McDonald's, I would still be doing this, right? Because it's just what I like, it's a passion. So in a sense, it's not I'm taking 4 hours of, like you said, like 3 or 4 hours of work. It really, the work time is when I'm doing stuff. This is like sort of my fun time is when I'm reading about that. So maybe it's just the way I am, but that part was the coolest part of the job, is that I actually get to say like, oh, there's this like Elasticsearch. How can we use it? And then figure out, and then the next day talk to people. All right, let's set up a pilot and do this.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you. So we have about 5 minutes, and again, I know we will not get to all the questions, so do not forget another plug. We will be at the expo all day tomorrow. My team will be there, the team and the extended team, they're out in the back. And we will also have the networking reception tomorrow night, room 13. So you guys have your mobile app. So do know if we won't get to all of you, but do come back. Okay, so I think we have about 4 minutes. Is that right, Victor? Are we good on time? Just let me know. So yes.
Hello, my name is Riddhi Mittal, and I'm a second-year chemical engineering student at the University of South Florida, and I belong to Region 7 as well. Yeah. And one of the values of IBM is trust and personal responsibility. So how do you see that being reflected in your work day to day, or in the collaborations with other teams at IBM?
I'll start. I'll say that anyone, it's within IBM. It seems like you can reach out to really anybody and ask them stuff, and they'll make it their personal responsibility to get back to you. And I don't know, when you work in different places, that culture isn't there in a lot of places, but at IBM people just tend to be helpful, and Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to add to that.
I think like beyond that, you also know that there's almost an implicit understanding that they're coming at their responses are coming from a place of like from a good place, right? They're not there to sabotage you and screw you over. They're there to actually look like if they can help you, they'll help you, and if they can't, they'll tell you. But they won't lead you on to play games, or there's no in that respect. These are very earnest. So the values of the company really are like these earnest interactions between people, and it's not just between us, but it's also to the customer, right? So many times, like if something's shady, the company just won't do it.
Thank you for that. Okay, I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hi, I'm Odell Rodriguez. I'm currently studying computer engineering at USF, so I belong to Region 7. My question to you guys is, since Career Fair is approaching tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow, what do you think are the most important qualities for someone to excel at IBM?
Oh, okay. Who would like to take that?
So
Luis,
maybe
I would say, huh?
Go ahead.
You want to prep us for
I would
tomorrow?
say, human beings, like even little kids, they're really, really curious all the time, right? Never stop that, right? And you always want to be curious. You want to learn new stuff, new skills, right? Because in the world of technology, things change very rapidly, right? And so you always got to be learning new things, right? And I would say that that's one of the things that combined with hard work will make you successful at IBM or any company,
The other thing I'd add to that is communication skills, soft skills.
Yep.
Right, so be able to communicate effectively, get your point across in a very short time frame. Know that the person on the other end has a lot of people to interview, so be succinct. Come prepared with what is the message I want this individual to hear about me? Why should they hire me? And give a compelling reason for that. And I think that's very important for each and every one of you to arm yourselves with is those soft skills.
Yeah. Make sure that in interviews, the interviewer knows who you are and what you can bring to the table, right? What can you do for the company, right?
And if I may do a quick little plug on that, keep in mind, being that I am front center, I do recruiting expos year-round, all the time. I like to think that IBM is one of the leading companies that have a very streamlined process as far as our recruiting efforts. It's not a traditional one where we pull you off to the side and interview you and offer you a job on the spot. We connect with you virtually. You'll hear me talk about our client, our IBM Talent Network. We'll have a couple of follow-ups that we'll ask of you, and that's it. If you do not follow up, we realize that we're taking a chance of potentially losing you because we expect you to follow back up and go through the next steps. So keep that in mind, that you might hear that a lot tomorrow, because I know a lot of companies are following a new trend. If you're really interested in a company and you have to follow up with them virtually or online or through their process, run with it. Don't forget, take notes, because I'm assuming you're having hundreds of discussions tomorrow. Do know that we're not sending you to a black hole, but we do need you to respond back to us through our process, because again, that is where because we are a global company, we need to be able to filter all students through the appropriate channels. So just you guys be ready for that tomorrow. And so when you run into folks like us tomorrow, we get you plugged into our iPads and so forth, know that we're not sending you to a black hole. And I hope to hear back from everybody who we say, look out for my email, follow back up, here are the next steps, and you guys actually do it. We're actually, there's a sense of accountability now for students who are out there in the job market hoping to land an internship or a full-time job. Okay? Thank you. So how are we? Are we good to go? I think we are ready to wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow at the expo, at the breakfast, at the SHPE Spotlight Series, and at the reception. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you.